bucksmontuu.org. There's a lot happening at Bucksmont, and we'd like to highlight these announcements in particular. There will be a Red Cross blood drive at Bucksmont on Tuesday, January 23rd from 2 to 7 p.m. See the e-voice for details about making an appointment. Come to Bucksmont's Winter Retreat on January 27th. Celebrate the magic of winter and indulge in a day away from the everyday. Tap into your creative spirit with an art project, no skills needed. Practice yoga, chair or mat. Calm your whole being with meditation. And finish the day with the ancient practice of a walking meditation through a spiritual labyrinth. Find a link to all the details in the e-voice. On January 28th, the Coming of Age teams would like to invite you to a pasta fundraiser immediately after service. Suggested donations will go to the Coming of Age retreat. We are beginning an Enneagram seminar at Bucksmont. It will be held first and third Tuesdays at 7 p.m. beginning in February. See this week's e-voice or flyer on the tables in the social hall for more details. Whether you are a guest, friend, or member, we are glad you are a part of our worship service today.
As we gather in our sanctuary, in our homes, or watch from mobile screens almost anywhere, we are all together. Those watching now on Sunday and those who may be watching months from now, we are joined together for worship across both space and time. This is a free, creedless religious congregation in the discipline of truth and the spirit of universal kinship. We join together in a cooperative quest for religious and ethical values, seeking to apply these values to the development of character, enrichment of the spirit, and service to all. You are welcome here. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever the color of your skin or your country of origin, no matter your gender expression or gender identity, whatever your age, however you define family, wherever you are at this time, and whatever the source of your faith, you are welcome here.
This morning, as we do each time we gather, we kindle our Unitarian Universalist chalice. We do so today with words from Bet Swinecki. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us. Please light your chalice at home. Our common chalice is now lit.
Good morning. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing our opening hymn, number 360, in the gray hymnal or with the words on the screen.
Welcome, Leona. Okay. So my name is Melissa. I am the Director of Religious Education, and my pronouns are she, her. Today we're going to be reading a story. It's called The Anti-Racist Baby. Has anyone ever read this book before? Yeah? A couple hands up. Okay. All right. Anti-Racist Baby is bred, not born. Anti-Racist Baby is raised to make society transform. Babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There's no neutrality. Take these 9 steps to make equality a reality. 1, open your eyes to all skin colors. Anti-racist baby learns all the colors. Not because race is true. If you claim to be colorblind, you deny what's right in front of you. 2, use your words to talk about race. No one will see racism if we only stay silent. If we don't name racism, it won't stop being so violent. 3, point at policies as the problem, not people. Some people get more while others get less, because policies don't always grant equal access. Good stuff, right, Cassie? Yeah, okay. 4, shout. There's nothing wrong with the people. Even though all races are not treated the same, we are all human, anti-racist baby can proclaim. 5, celebrate all our differences. Anti-racist baby doesn't see certain groups as better or worse. Anti-racist baby loves a world that's truly diverse. 6, knock down the stack of cultural blocks. Anti-racist baby appreciates how groups speak, dance, and create as they choose. Anti-racist baby welcomes all groups voicing their unique views. 7, confess when being racist. Nothing disrupts racism more than when we confess the racist ideas that we sometimes express. Grow to be an anti-racist. Anti-racist baby is always learning, changing, and growing. Anti-racist baby stays curious about all people and isn't all-knowing. And 9, believe we shall overcome racism. Anti-racist baby is filled with the power to transcend, my friend, and it doesn't judge a book by its cover, but it reads until the end. All right, thank you, everyone. Let's head downstairs.
As you go on your way, may you be filled with gladness. Go enjoy, go enjoy. May fortune bless your day with peace and loving kindness. Go in love, go in love. As you go on your way, may you be filled with gladness. Go enjoy, go enjoy. May fortune bless your day with peace and loving kindness. Go in love, go in love.
The offering in liberal religion is a vital part of our history of faith. As a covenanted community, people who freely choose to be here, our voluntary giving is symbolic of that freedom of choice. Each week at Bucksmont, we share our offering with a different cause or organization in the community. For the month of January, we are sharing with Heeding God's Call to End Gun Violence. Gun violence was the #1 concern among our congregation on the last congregational survey done by the Peace and Justice Committee last spring. This organization seeks to energize the faith community and actively seeks an end to gun violence through education, public witness, and policy advocacy. Heeding God's Call seeks to build a campaign by involving the public, media, and legislators to enact common sense gun laws, such as 1 handgun a month. Members of Bucksmont have been active with Heeding God's Call, most recently participating in the Doylestown Gun Violence Awareness Day. We ask that you participate in our morning offering in one of these ways. You can write out a check to Bucksmont and mail it into the fellowship. You may donate online now or at the end of our worship service. Or you may place your donation into one of the baskets as they are passed. We will now receive the morning offering. Our community continues to grow and thrive due to generous donations of both time and money. For the many ways that you contribute and how it sustains this fellowship, we are truly grateful. This morning's reading is from MLK's Quest for Peace and Justice. In the final analysis, the rich must not ignore the poor because both rich and poor are tied in a single garment of destiny. All life is interrelated and all men are interdependent. The agony of the poor diminishes the rich, and the salvation of the poor enlarges the rich. We are inevitably our brother's keeper because of the interrelated structure of reality. John Donne interpreted this truth in graphic terms when he affirmed, "No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. And therefore, never send to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee."
Ubi caritas est vera, Deus ibi est, congregavi nos in unum Christi amor. Exultemus est in ipso, iucundemur, timeamus et amemus, Deum vivum, et ex corde ligamus, nosi sero. Ubi caritas est vera, Deus ibi est. Where true charity and love dwell, God themself is there.
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an incredibly powerful organizer, an inspiring preacher, and someone who was building a national story about the way our country treats African Americans, both then and now. But he didn't do it alone. He wasn't perfect, nor was he a saint. And he wasn't widely popular when he was alive. A short time before his assassination, only 1 in 3 people viewed him favorably. Many accused him of being disruptive, of making too much of race, and of creating division in our country. Not surprisingly, these same things are said about those organizing for justice today. Shutting down roads. The civil rights movement did that. Disrupting business. The civil rights movement did that. Boycotts. The civil rights movement did that. Supporting strikes among workers. The civil rights movement did that too. And we remember King as both a person and a symbol of so much. Often we think of him as part of a bygone era of American history. Tomorrow, January 15th, would have been Dr. King's 95th birthday. Were it not for his assassination, he could be alive today. His story is not of the distant past, but of the current generation of elders alive in our world now. To remember that Dr. King was a person, let us remember that he also watched TV too. He was a fan of Star Trek's first season, which debuted in 1966, particularly the character Uhura, portrayed by Nichelle Nichols. After the first season, Nichols wanted to leave the show, and show creator Gene Roddenberry asked her to take the weekend to think on it. That weekend, she was at a fundraising event, and a staff person said one of her biggest fans wanted to meet her. That fan was Dr. King, and he wanted to meet her because Star Trek was the only show he let his children stay up late to watch. When Nichols told King she was planning to leave the show, King told her she couldn't because while some things were changing for the good in America, her presence was one of the only portrayals of equality on television. Uhura was intelligent and beautiful and commanding, and he pointed out a role that wasn't specifically the role for a black woman. Her presence on that spaceship showed the world that a black woman could be all of those things. Nichols stayed on. He was 39 years old when he was killed, the same age I will be later this year. He had a lot of time left to make a difference in the world, and yet his legacy is one of the most touched upon in American history, sometimes for positive things, and sometimes, curiously, for negative ones, too. Take the MLK Day holiday itself. It took 15 years of fighting to make it a national holiday. Many opposed the idea, including then-President Ronald Reagan, who publicly opposed the idea of the holiday becoming a reality, but reversed his position after the fallout from comments in which he implied Dr. King had communist sympathies and had to formally apologize to Coretta Scott King over the phone to attempt to end the backlash. Reagan signed onto the holiday, and instead a project of selective memorying, and instead a process of selective remembering of Dr. King became the path forward for people across the political spectrum. Glenn Beck claimed in a speech that the Tea Party is picking up the mantle of Dr. King. The idea of teaching about the history of racism in our public schools has become a flashpoint in politics in our own towns and across the country, with selective quoting of Dr. King himself as one of the reasons to stop teaching divisive topics like our country's history around racism. Hajar Yazida, author of The Struggle for the People's King, said in a recent NPR interview, "We understand memory as a political project, and that we become really curious about why it is that we remember certain things and what they're doing in society, what story they are telling, and who gets left out." Because of this, I invite us to hear a few pieces from Dr. King's speeches and writings that are less often quoted on this weekend. They are not often included in our collective memory, and I think you will see the reason why. In a speech delivered 1 year before his assassination on April 4th, 1967, at Riverside Church in New York City, Dr. King called upon Americans to denounce the Vietnam War. A short excerpt from that speech. It is with such activity in mind that the words of the late John F. Kennedy come back to haunt us. 5 years ago, he said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." Increasingly, by choice or by accident, this is the role our nation has taken, the role of those who make peaceful revolution impossible by refusing to give up the privileges and the pleasures that come from the immense profits of overseas investments. I am convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society, when machines and computers, profit motives and property rights are considered more important than people. The giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. A true revolution of values will lay hand on the world order and say of war, "This way of settling differences is not just." This business of burning human beings with napalm, of filling our nation's homes with orphans and widows, of injecting poisonous drugs of hate into the veins of peoples normally humane, of sending men home from dark and bloody battlefields, physically handicapped and psychologically deranged, cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. King not only denounced the Vietnam War, but connected the idea of racial justice to critiques of capitalism and militarism, both here in our country and globally. The movement he was the public face of was not only working on voting rights, desegregation of public spaces, including schools and businesses, but also a movement that called for systemic changes to the way society operated. These were and still are dangerous ideas to many. King's critique of capitalism is also found in the Three Evils speech of 1967. Again, we have deluded ourselves into believing the myth that capitalism grew and prospered out of the Protestant ethic of hard work and sacrifices. Capitalism was built on the exploitation of black slaves and continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both black and white, both here and abroad. In Where Do We Go From Here, King writes, whites, it must frankly be said, are not putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn. The reality of substantial investment to assist Negroes in the 20th century, adjusting to Negro neighborhoods, and genuine school integration is still a nightmare for all too many white Americans. These are the deepest causes for contemporary abrasions between the races. Loose and easy language about equality, resonant resolutions about brotherhood fall pleasantly on the ear. But for the Negro, there is a credibility gap he cannot overlook. He remembers that with each modest advance, the white population promptly raises the argument that the Negro has come far enough. Each step forward accents an ever-present tendency to backlash. We've seen the cycle of backlash that occurs when progress is made. We know too well how voting rights have been eroded. The bodily autonomy of people who can get pregnant is a state-by-state fight today. National politics, particularly in the sphere of the presidency, is still rippling for our election of the nation's first Black president. And the fair funding of public schools is still a current debate in our own Commonwealth right now, this legislative session. These issues are not unrelated efforts either. They are part of a project to divide people, removing paths to democratic reform, and limit broad access to factual history and tools for critical thinking more broadly, from elementary schools all the way up through public universities. I repeat the quote from earlier by Hajar Yazida. We understand memory as a political project, and that we become really curious about why it is that we remember certain things and what they're doing in society, what story they are telling, and who gets left out. I'm also reflecting on how our own theologies within Unitarian Universalism might connect with Dr. King's radical aspects. Unsurprisingly, to me at least, that bridge is found in the role of love and how we move forward. Excerpts from King's speech on love and power, delivered on August 16th, 1967. One of the great problems of history is that the concepts of love and power have usually been contrasted as opposites, so that love is identified with a resignation of power, and power with a denial of love. But power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. We see this sort of empowered love in the history of our own universalism, which continues to say that God, or that which inspires you toward your best self by any other name, is not limited to just those who are like us, or those we already like. Instead, love calls us to continually welcome, to continually grow, and to continually work for justice in the world. At yesterday's memorial service, in my eulogy, I wrote, "Where God is, love is there. Where love is, God is there." And for those of us who do not find meaning in the concept of God, we might also say, where love is, justice is there. Where justice is, love is there. How do we move forward then? What does resistance look like in our current moment, and how might we go about it? Well, we can re-educate ourselves, not leaving what is true to headlines or those who claim to know better than us. We can find out for ourselves. We can read more of King's speeches, but also not only King's speeches. We can learn about the Black women that made the civil rights movement run, like Ella Baker, or Bayard Rustin, the gay Black man who made so many of King's successes, like the March on Washington, a reality. And we can learn about humanist and Unitarian minister, Reverend Louis Mickey, who was one of the first African-American ministers in our movement, and active at the same time as Dr. King in integrating Unitarian congregations, not without a small amount of resistance in our own movement. We can join efforts to make changes like Power Interfaith's work around civic engagement and fair funding and fair education funding in our public schools statewide. Both of these issues are constantly under attack, including right now. Because while there have been and has been important progress, the issues of the civil rights movement are not history. They are very much of the present. They are the issues on our ballots this November. They are the issues being debated at our local school board meetings each and every month. I close with a final quote from Dr. King's Where Do We Go From Here? The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish truth. Through violence, you murder the hater, but you do not murder hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. The question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice? May we be the right kind of extremists. So may it be.
Now I invite you to rise and bow to your spirit and join in singing number 213 in the gray hymnal or up on your screens. There's a wideness in your mercy.
There's a wideness in your mercy, like the wideness of the sea. There's a kindness in your justice, which is more than liberty. But we make your love too narrow by false limits of our own, and we magnify your strictness with a zeal you will not own. For the love of God is broader than the measures of our minds, and the more of the eternal is most wonderfully kind.
Let us now enter into a time of awareness within ourselves and connection beyond boundaries, connection to one another and to that interdependent web of life of which we are each but one small thread. As we breathe in, we are connected. As we breathe out, we are connected. As we practice attention and intention in this moment, I share words from Reverend Wayne Arneson. I invite you now into a quiet time, a time for spoken and silent contemplation. Spirit of life, we have come into each other's presence this day, seeking a part of ourselves, knowing that we do not live alone, knowing that we cannot live fully if we are here for ourselves alone. We gather in thanks for the life and ministry of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not because we wish to worship him as a saint, but because we wish to embody his dream as a possibility we make real. We gather with full knowledge of our shortcomings, our lives set before us many tasks, and often we are not equal to them. We fall short of our own expectations. We find we do not know enough, are not always patient. We fall into anger. We cannot find the strength. We lack the vision or wait in vain for wisdom. It is painful to acknowledge our shortcomings, yet here we are. Here we are, not always perfect, not always wise, not always just, but wonderfully and mysteriously human and alive. We dedicate this time together to renewing our hope. May the stories we share give us courage. May the psalms we sing give us hope. May the words we speak give us wisdom. And most of all, may the touch of hands, the sight of faces, the sound of voices lifted in psalm and affirmation restore in us faith that this world may be made whole, with all its people one. As we breathe in, we are connected. As we breathe out, we are connected. May our minds create a vision of the world radical enough to be called holy. May our actions contain the promise of hope and the commitment to justice. May our hearts remember that love is a power that resists all forms of fear. By our thoughts, by our actions, by our hearts, and by our very breath, may it be so. As part of our caring outreach to one another, we set aside a few moments to note both the sorrows and the joys in our lives. In these moments of peace and reflection, we turn our attention to one another. We hold each and all in our compassionate thoughts and the prayers of our hearts. This morning, we are lighting candles to mark the important moments in our lives. Each candle adds to the collective light of this community, a place that also holds the memories of those who have gone before and anticipates those who have yet to arrive. To share the joy or sorrow you would like held by our caring community, text the number that is now on screen. Please include your name along with your sharing. It is the same number no matter how you join us today, and you can add it to your contacts for future weeks. I will read them aloud, and Elliot will light a candle on your behalf. What is shared today will go out in our weekly caring notes for those who cannot be with us this morning. Please remember to include your first and last name with what you share. And we will light a final candle for all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken on our hearts. With words spoken and candles lit, we honor our joys and our sorrows and everything in between, those shared this morning and the many, many more that exist beyond words. Through our time together, our relationships are deepened and our community made whole.
And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 276 in the great hymnal, O Young and Fearless Prophet, or Words on the Screen.
To make our thoughts and actions last grown to please
Our chalice extinguishing words this morning are from Amy Zucker Morgenstern. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less. It becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world.
As our community departs from this service, may we remember all who came before. May we imagine all who will come after. May we honor all who are present with us here and now. In our time together, we create this community, one of promise, one of commitment, one of both memory and justice. In our time together, may each of us become a sanctuary for all we meet on the journey. May we go together now and return again.